While the Walt Disney Company's latest earnings call said that Disney Plus had regained 7 million subscribers it had lost over the last 2 quarters, the more troubling statistic long-term comes from the Nielsen ratings on Disney Plus's flagship content. While statements from Disney themselves would indicate that things are going well, Nielsen says that Disney Plus premieres are pulling a fraction of previous entries while subscriber numbers grow. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. This is Jonas J. Campbell from That Park Place, where we cover entertainment, streaming, theme parks, and video games twice a day. Maybe hit the like button if you're interested in that kind of thing. We recorded this particular conversation before the Walt Disney Company earnings call, but thankfully they announced almost nothing of consequence during the call, so everything we said is pretty much up to date. So let's get into it. Speaking of the content problem, let's take a look at this wonderful post by Mac, who is an amazing Twitter account, super information dense, and that's why I like Mac. This is Mandalorian. I'm gonna say season 3. It is down, but it is still doing okay here. As we see the headline, each Disney Plus Star Wars show season finale draws lower viewership than the one before, not including season 3 finale, but resumably.
Are you supposed to be sharing your screen there, James?
Oh, sorry. Yep.
You're good.
I'm new to this StreamYard stuff. It's not like I host a live stream or produce a live stream multiple times a week. So as we can see here, Ahsoka, 575 at the end, which, by the way, is lower than Andor, which had 674 million watch minutes on Nielsen. Obi-Wan Kenobi was 860, and Book of Boba Fett was 885. These are numbers in decline. It seems like that the statement that Star Wars is dead might not be true. It seems like maybe Star Wars is dying. Well, also we know that Loki outclassed a lot of it. Loki was lauded as the second most viewed season premiere on Disney Plus this year with 10.9 million views after 3 days. So that means it made more. It had greater viewership than Ahsoka. But as we know, the Loki season premiere numbers were a big drop from season 1. Down here, we see that it had 731 million watch minutes, down to 446. That is 60% of the audience sticking around, despite Disney Plus numbers going up between then and now. What do you think the problem is here, guys?
To me, it's not season to season that matters. It's during the season. If the second one gets less than the first one and the third one gets less than the second one, as is happening with most of these shows, the question then becomes how many people stuck around because they still love Star Wars and they wanted to see these shows, or they still love Loki. And after a couple of things, they said, that's it, I'm done. And not only didn't watch the rest of it, but turned the thing off and canceled the membership. Because remember, these are not shows that are there to make individual minutes of advertising based on Nielsen ratings. They're there to keep you subscribing. And so expectation is a wonderful thing, might get you in the door. But if your expectation isn't met, it might kick you right out again.
So what you're saying is they're not worried about people watching this. So maybe they have a streaming service, if I'm gathering from what you're saying. Maybe they have a streaming service that is geared exclusively towards subscribers coming in, paying money, and not unsubscribing, as opposed to getting them to watch the content and putting ads in the middle of that content.
Well, that remains to be seen. But meanwhile, the whole idea of all of these expenditures of massive amounts of money for series was to get people in the door and have them stick around. Right. And I'm just saying, it isn't just, well, that wasn't so good, but maybe next week it'll be better. It's that wasn't good and that was worse. And how long do I stick around hoping it'll get better? You know, people vote with their butts, and when they get them up out of the seat and walk out the door, or look at that list down below, which I can just see a little better is why I'm choosing it. Remember what I said about existing stuff? Grey's Anatomy, Criminal Minds, Downton Abbey, NCIS.
Right.
Yeah. They're all, a lot of them, NCIS anyway, in several versions, is still out there playing in other places. So if I leave Disney Plus because, gee, I really like that show, why don't I go to Netflix and watch it? Or whatchamacallit, Paramount Plus.
Max or Paramount Plus, or Tubi, which is completely free, or Pluto, which is completely free. Tubi owned by Fox Corp, which is not that's the remaining portion of Fox that was not bought by Disney. They have a go ahead, Vash.
No. Please, go ahead. Go ahead, Jonas. I'm
They
sorry.
have a content problem here where they're trying to make all this premiere content that they're thinking people are going to buy because it has, or people are going to subscribe for because it has these massive production values. It's the IP that you love, in the same way that they're trying to get those kind of theater numbers where if they released an Ahsoka movie in theaters, if it was well written and well marketed, they could get $1 billion for that in theory. Emphasis
People
on
don't
in theory.
come in for production values. They come in for people they give a damn about.
Yes.
It's why they didn't go to the Star Cruiser. It's why the later movies fell off. It's why people rejected the indie movie, because it was, wait, that's not the guy you told me was going to be here.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point there, Lou and Jonas. I think you're right here. I remember Chapek saying that he wanted an original episode of original programming to premiere on Disney Plus like once a week, for 56 weeks out of the year or whatever it is. And I thought that plan was very ambitious, and that's why they up their content spend at $30 billion a year in order to kind of increase that pipeline and to facilitate that kind of production. But they've kind of run, I think, Disney Plus branded shows into the ground by doing that. It's just, like Lou said, there's no one really on there that people want to see. But two, I think word has gotten out that these Disney Plus shows, well, they're just not that good.
And let's look at how shows that are good pick up. And one of the lists you just showed, it just happened to go past my eyes. One of the things mentioned was Reacher. Reacher's had one season so far. It was pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
And the guy starring in it said a lot of stupid things that made me upset.
That happens.
That's a different story.
You know.
The next season, now, but it's been out there now for almost a year. The next season, I just looked it up, returns December 15th. So why is it suddenly getting attention? Because people who liked it the first time are telling their friends, hey, it's coming back for season 2. You should watch season 1 and catch up. So suddenly there's a whole second premiere season, in effect, of people who heard about it, thought about it, who are going to try it again.
Yep.
That doesn't seem to happen with these Disney things.
Yeah, so they get this bump when people say, you know what, I loved it so much, I'm going to binge watch this entire thing. The one thing I'm going to point out, when they spend $200 million making Ahsoka, and they get an average revenue per user of $7.30, just doing the quick math here, dividing that 200 million by 731, and then also dividing that by, say, 6 months, we get a figure of 4.6 million people that would need to subscribe to Disney Plus for at least 6 months exclusively for Ahsoka in order to make that a reasonable purchase.
Yeah.
And Jonas, with all due respect, you can do that math. If I'd had those numbers, I could have sat here with a pencil and eventually come up with it. Vash can do it. The guy from Pepsi can do it. How come nobody at Disney right now can do that math? Did they all flunk accounting class?
I think that that famous underwear gnome, step 1, collect underpants. Step 2, ? Step 3, profits. I think that's the entire streaming game right now. I think Netflix confused everybody by creating a new medium as opposed to creating content. Netflix does have better content in general.
Sure.
They're not perfect. But they also take all of this old TV content and they'll just plop it down on their streaming service. And whatever they're, when we're looking at these Nielsen numbers, there are almost always items that are popular strictly because they used to be on TV and then they went to the front of the Netflix front page. And that's why Flushed Away, the Aardman animation movie, the claymation animated film starring Hugh Jackman as a stuffy rat from Kensington Gardens, that will make it into the top 10 streaming figures for Nielsen because it just happened to go to the Netflix front page as opposed to there was some interest randomly on Twitter of let's talk about Flushed Away.
Let's compare that to the old days, as I anciently called them. All the years that all of you watched plain old ABC, CBS, NBC, made by Universal and Disney and everybody else, 99% of those shows, even the hits, were deficit financed. They spent more to make it and put it out in first run than they were getting back in license fees from the network. And why? Because afterwards was syndication. Afterwards was if you had enough shows, Channel 13 and Channel 9 and Channel 12 and all those others were going to show them 5 nights a week after the news or whatever. Look at God, Cheers ran that way forever. Well, guess what? That's all gone and it's been replaced and I guarantee you they're making more money than they ever did from syndication
Mhm.
by Netflix, by Hulu. It's the new afterlife of these shows. And what's more important is it isn't the year after they go off the air on NBC, they show up on Channel 13. It's 10 years, it's 15 years, it's whatever it is. And you can watch them all, not just one a night, every night at 7:30 or 10 o'clock or whatever it was. That's
Well,
a huge, huge thing on
It-
stuff that is content that they own that's quote unquote dead. It's the equivalent. It's the equivalent of back when I was younger, Channel 9, Channel 13. That's how I saw Casablanca. That's how I saw Gone with the
Mhm.
Wind. That's how I saw all these great classics because they put them on TV.
As
My
opposed to an
wife,
algorithm saying, you know what, you should watch? Watch this thing instead. Watch this shiny thing that's very, very close to what you just already watched.
my wife was an Air Force brat and grew up in Europe, and I showed her Casablanca for the first time in her life about 20 years ago because she never grew up with all that stuff on television. But now, my goodness me, with Netflix and all the rest of them, it's all there. You just got to wander around.
Mhm.
well,
And
I
hey,
think that
while I'm here, I think I'll check this out that looks interesting, like you said, that's on the front page. Or while I'm here, they'll make suggestions based on my prior viewing, just like YouTube and everybody else does. So, and it's all, relatively speaking, free. Yeah, you got to pay some residuals and some license fees, but that's bupkis compared to getting 150 people in a soundstage and a set and lights
Right.
and casts and the rest of it.
Now, Vash, I want to get to your comment after this. If
No problem.
syndication and Netflix, if Netflix is syndication heaven, we're going to have to talk about the purgatory that Disney is in right after. Vash, do you have something to say there?
I did, yeah. I mean, Lou, you're exactly right. I mean, placing this stuff on Netflix and having it be its own kind of repository for content and getting those licensing fees off of Netflix was a good model until the companies providing that content went, maybe we should start our own streaming service. And I think that's kind of why everything's out of whack, because
And
everything
anybody
is
who
everywhere.
decides that now, having seen Disney's experience, is going to say, I think I'd rather just take Netflix's money. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a perfectly legitimate business model to just say, okay, well, we've got somebody who will definitely pay us for this.
Right.
So why don't we make a Five Nights at Freddy's movie, Blumhouse making a Five Nights at Freddy's movie and having Peacock pay for the entirety of the production, and then we'll also put it in theaters and make money there, and then we'll probably also get a cut on the back end of those Peacock figures.
And there's a better example just recently in reverse, in a way, and that is this new version of The Exorcist, which they
Oh, what a
making that
disaster!
paid the original some insane amount of money to make 3 or 4 movies
Yes,
that dwarfed the production budget of 3 or 4 movies.
that is
because
the
I forget
400
what it
million
was,
for the rights to
400
a
million. That was
horror
it.
film.
Yeah. And it's
Absolutely
we talk
ridiculous.
about how many viewers does Ahsoka have to break even? How many viewers does that have to have? Especially when you have the mother of the little girl who spewed pea soup being asked, how come the Catholic Church isn't helping you this time? And she said, oh, it's the patriarchy.
Yeah, the men who died to save her daughter are the patriarchy.
Those evil patriarchy
yeah.
guys.
So
Indiana Jones and the Patriarchy of the Covenant. There we go.
This conversation was originally part of That Park Place Live, which we do every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Feel free to hit the notification bell if you'd like to be notified when we go live. Of course, like this video if you like this video. Share it out on social media if you know someone who might be interested. And we would be honored if you would subscribe to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.